Hello everybody, welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Umir, who's a professional football tactical analyst and scout. And if you wonder what's on the board next to me, this is the outcome of the review of the Tottenham-Chelsea game, which is out on the channel on Monday. If you want to go see that, there will be a link to that at the end of the video. But we're going to get straight into the overall topical Premier League talk, and we are going to start with this game because it was the biggest talking point of the weekend. So even though we have done the tactics and the review of it, I want to speak a little bit more in-depth about it. I think Chelsea have been the team that surprised everyone, not just in terms of the way they play in football, because I think Maresca had a style, but we've always spoken about him being a bit more versatile and adaptable. But I think for me, the thing that's blown me away so much is how he handles himself and around the players. Yeah. And he seems to have the assertiveness, but the tactics, but he's so young in his head. But you get the sense that he's like a lot older, a lot more mature, like cool, calm customer. And what have you been impressed about the most with Maresca? Because I think for me, he's just been wicked, like really, really good.
You know what? I thought Maresca's Leicester was a bit more rigid. And I was worried that would have been the case with Chelsea. Yeah. I think the biggest compliment I can give Maresca is the way that I see football, the way that I think good coaches, good managers, good analysts work is by maximising people or team strengths and minimising the weaknesses by getting people in optimal situations, whether that's like on the pitch or, you know, in the training ground or around teammates, etc. And what Maresca's done is got this really like global, holistic picture of where individuals are best suited. And then, you know, of course, at the beginning, in the transfer window, I assume it was because of the higher-ups, but he had to make big decisions or at least be the face of big decisions that he didn't necessarily make. And at that time, he received some criticism. I didn't love the way that he handled some of the senior players, Chilwell, Sterling, etc. Like exactly. But I think that might have been something beyond him. The fact that that's a non-issue at the moment, he's got a young core group of players. Yeah. The fact, look, he's not the oldest, most experienced manager in terms of having accolades under his belt that drive home that respect. But one, he speaks really well. Two, he's got a good understanding of what the club should be. Three, he's getting the players motivated and using them in a way that they want to play. Sancho off the left again, playing with separation. Cucurella playing in that back three, but with the freedom to come inside. So you take all of that on board, and he's. I think he's set up to do really well for a long time. I think this kind of team suits him as well. I
think how assertive he's been in terms of the squad. But when he came in and he was doing the press conferences and he was talking about the size of the squad he had and the way he handled that whole like circus that was Chelsea at the time and how much criticism not only he received because he was the brunt of it or the face of it, the club, the manager. But how, in terms of how he's reacted to that, played football, got the players like so well gelled together, and I think the way he's handled Noni Madueke for me has probably been the thing that I've been quite like, wow, that just shows how testament of a good manager he is. And I think it was because he has good games, Noni Madueke, and then he's never shy to be like, oh, he's had a good game, but he always backs it up with the next line is always, but he can do better, he should do better, he's not training as good as he can be.
But it doesn't sound harsh, it doesn't sound harsh. Rude or... But
I think, I just think he's got the makeup of a really good coach, and you've seen him now go head to head with a few good coaches. They played well in the start against Manchester City at the start of the season.
Yeah,
and I think everyone was. I know. I think everyone was impressed with him in that first game, but doing what they've done now, they accumulated midweek the highest XG of an away team in Premier League history since Opta began recording XG in 2008. So, I know the model's changed and everything, but that is. It's huge. To do what he's doing, the rotation of the team, especially midweek, they played Tosin and Disasi at the back.
It's funny because it feels like they got two teams, doesn't it?
No, it does. And
it's
really
players
funny.
Get promoted from the B team into
whenever I speak to Chelsea fans, they're always like, oh, he's doing really well in the B team, he should go in the A team. Instead of it like, it's like in Serie A, but they have like a reserve team and a first team. And it's like, oh, they need promoting from that team. But I think the Conference League has almost helped him with that. The conference
because it still
team
feels
is
like it's often enough and it still feels important. but you can play, like, you don't need to play all of your best players in there.
And it's just like, if you perform really well in the B team, you get a chance in the first team. Like
Sancho and Felix, I would say, really getting there.
So, I think the way he's rotating the squad, the way he's put his foot down, the assertiveness, but also the way he's galvanised a young core of players. So even since the first week, I think me and you have been really high praising him. So, moving on to Tottenham. Ange Postecoglou's side has kept just one clean sheet in the past 22 Premier League home games, a run which started with a 4-1 loss against Chelsea last November. We've already covered this on Monday, and we thought that it was one of Ange's weaker games in terms of what went on throughout the game. But I think the centre-half decision to start Romero, Van der Ven, and then both being subbed off with injuries in the game was one of them where it was like, wow, nothing's going your way.
The thing is, with a team like that, and in a situation like that, it mirrors the City a little bit in the sense that, we'll probably get onto it, but Manchester City, we didn't play Grealish and we didn't play Doku, even though with both of them in the side, it looked like that was a good solution to the problems that we've been having. Now, with the fixtures coming in as often as they are, how do you mitigate that? Because look, if you play them and you win your game, cool, that's fine. But by playing them every 3 days and they get injured, you're potentially setting yourself up to have 2 months, 3 months without a good run of form. So with Ange, he's under pressure. Did you see the clip where it was he went up to the fans and they were all booing him? And
the Bournemouth. The Bournemouth game was really tough to watch. The Bournemouth game, and Iriola's a brilliant coach, so we're not taking anything away from him.
Their strengths are completely opposite.
It's funny how different they are in terms of, especially out of possession. But I think it's really touchy right now in the Spurs fan base, because I think fans are looking at the transfer window in the summer. I love the transfer window. I thought it was young, exciting. But then when we come into the season, I was like... Oh,
you realise the flaws a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like they've not actually improved the squad. When the first team come out, and I was like, they've not added anyone in there. It felt like Kulusevski was a new player because he was playing central. But then after the few weeks gone by, I was looking at the team and I was like... Even when Odebear's now not playing and Bergvall and Gray aren't ready, and it's like they've not really improved this team at all.
I've read a thing before where it says, if a top team's going to sign players or build or rebuild, you're trying to look for players who can come in and displace the starters, and then your starters almost become your bench players. And obviously it's not a hard and fast rule by any stretch of the imagination, but it feels like Spurs could have done with that more to take them to that next stage rather than raising the floor for 2 or 3 years' time.
That's what it is. Especially when you've got a manager who plays such high-octane football, and it's like all it takes is 2 months of bad results and that process is over, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and with how physical the league is, with how often the fixtures do come in, you need players who are first-team quality to rotate with the ones that are playing right now, because that midfield 2 or 3, the amount of games that they are playing themselves, I mean, they're going to be struggling in a few weeks for sure. I think
it's going to be a really rough. It sounds like you say this every week, but it's going to be really rough for Spurs. I really hope we can get through to the summer. I think Daniel Levy's got a massive job on his hands in terms of the way he's going to recruit moving forward. I think he has to learn. He has to learn from the window he's just had, the manager. I've seen this a lot in the press. I'm not sure how true it is, but it does seem like Postecoglou isn't really putting his foot down too much with the signings and demanding stuff, which can be seen as a good thing when you look at how Antonio Conte handled it. Very, very different stuff like that.
You kind of need results to force the hand a little bit.
And it's like you can't go up to the.
But you can't get results if you know how to play, isn't it?
It's just like a never-ending cycle for Postecoglou. So I'm really worried that moving forward, I think they've just entered a really tough run of fixtures as well, Tottenham. So really not looking good, especially with the injuries. But we're going to move on into Manchester United 2, Nottingham Forest 3. Well, not that, just the past week of Manchester United, because...
it's interesting.
I think...
What performance did you think was better?
I thought the Forest game wasn't bad. I thought the Forest game was decent. But I just look at this team and I just go, the individuals making mistakes, like the mental, the lapses in concentration... some of the emotional showing of the team. Manchester United have had this thing for like a decade now, where I think because they've never really been a stable club post 2013, the heightened emotions. This is why we were playing so. This is why we always played so good on the break. Is because you can just like spring so fast. And I think Ruben Amorim's coming in. The first thing he's gone is we need to slow down. Like everything's so fast paced.
Yeah.
But because they're so trained in this idea that they need to go first, fast, always, so transition heavy. It's like when the ball's turned over and the game becomes just a little bit frantic for like 5 minutes.
They
like
double triple down into that, don't
it's
they?
like if an opposition has like 2 shots against you, they might not even be high quality shots, but if it's deflected, gone for a corner, the away fans start cheering. The squad panics so quickly, and it's like, and as soon as that happens, it's like the inevitable's coming. Yeah. We're going to concede one, we're going to chase the game, we're going to concede another, chasing the game, and then someone's going to get booked for kicking out, and it's just like I said it after the Forest game. I think you can talk about your technical, your tactical and all that stuff, but I just think some of the emotions and the mindsets when playing for a club of this size is scary bad, because I'm just watching players make these stupid... I'm watching players dribble across the top of the box and take a shot from 40 yards out when we've just recycled the ball for about 5 minutes, looking to, find little holes in the shape. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, it just makes no sense. And if that wasn't enough, the director of football was just left after 5 months.
I know, that was really... What did you make of that? That was...
I've been really quiet on it, because INEOS have hit a couple red flags early on.
Yeah.
And
because everyone was really excited by their appointment.
Yeah, I was.
And
I
the
was.
names that they kind of went for appeared to be, Omar Broad, for example, Man City, Dan Ashworth, Newcastle, and they've all been parts of big projects. I don't know whether or not Dan Ashworth's influence was probably a little bit overstated, in the sense that perhaps he was working for establishments that did good work rather than being
he was a
the
background
one
man, wasn't he?
Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he did good work, but maybe he wasn't the sole sort of proprietor of that good work. So
sure.
People are saying sort of Ratcliffe kind of leaving quite individually on things and making decisions himself as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like, I think when a new ownership of at least the footballing side of the club comes in, and they make all the cuttings that they have done in terms of the costs, and they back that up with some very, very speculative decisions in the summer, in the window, the Ten Hag stuff, letting him stay but then sacking him after X amount of games, giving him players that again didn't really make sense in terms of addressing the overall picture of the squad. It was just really confusing for me, and I'm in a situation now with INEOS where it's, I think for me to believe in them and trust them, they have to get the next big one right. Like, they have to handle the next situation right, because what I've seen as a United fan is, since they've come in, we've won an FA Cup, but it was the worst Premier League season in the history of the club. They then kept the manager, which is completely fine. I wasn't yes or no with it, but it was the worst season in Manchester United's Premier League history. We had to be realistic. They didn't extend him. They just did the option.
And they took some time as well.
They took some time, weeks and weeks, after looking for loads of new managers. And now I'm sat here in a position where I'm like, well, you already weren't confident in him. We're going into a season, you spent 200 million.
If plays that kind of suit him a little bit more than you'd expect, probably.
Yeah, and it's like, now we're 4 months in, and it's they've sacked him. They brought a new manager in.
I think Amorim brings them some goodwill back, though, because I do think he's a good appointment. Yeah,
it's always going to be a circus, Manchester United, at the moment, so I'm just not even. But Chris Wood obviously scored in this game. Shout out Chris Wood. He's now the top goal scorer for 2 Premier League clubs. Only Alan Shearer is the other player in Premier League history to have done this, or to have maintained it. Wow. So Burnley and Forest, he's now the top goal scorer for both them clubs.
There was a stat, I think, was it last season, that the amount of sort of non-penalty goals that he got for his minutes played, like, I was talking about it at the time when Tony was sort of rumoured to be moving clubs and things, and everyone said, oh, look, Tony's a brilliant player, it's a £50 million player, £60 million player. I think Chris Wood was like equal or on more non-penalty goals in like half the minutes. And no one ever talks about Chris Wood as that kind of, it's sort of in the same mould as, Ivan Toney or the likes of those sort of mid-table Premier League players who get touted as moving up, Mitrovic, for example. But I think Chris Wood fits into that as like Premier League player. It's really high quality. The way he attacks the line, I think his movement really impressive. So yeah, I think he really deserves his roses more than people really let on, because the Forest performances this season rather, in playing as kind of pragmatic as they have been doing, it's not an easy job. And by the way, he's benching Awoniyi, who's such a good player, and Elanga, so.
I've got a stat here that says the most valuable goal scorers in the Premier League this season. So it's the amount of goals they've scored and the amount of points that them goals have won.
Yeah.
So Chris Wood has scored 10 goals, which have won Forest 12 points, which is tied with Haaland, who's also won 12 points.
And he's basically the only guy.
And we'll get on to you, don't worry.
The only guy who's scoring.
But yeah, I think securing 12 points pretty much, not on your own, but you're putting the ball in the back of the net.
As the primary kind of attacker,
12 points for Forest. If you took 12 points off Forest, I don't even know where they'd be, but they're not anywhere near the top. And I think to do what he's doing right now, at the age he's doing it at, with the confidence he's doing, and you know when you listen to him talk, he just does not care.
But he talks like he belongs in that top
he has done it all his career. There's a reason why he's the top goal scorer for 2 different clubs. But it's like...
But he has the aura of someone who is putting those goals in.
He's like a 25 goal season.
I'm like, fair enough, you are. Like.
Yeah, he's like, I can't even dispute that. Fair enough. So yeah, we've just done a little bit of research. So Nottingham Forest, if you minus the 12 points that Chris Wood has scored them, would be 17th in the league, which...
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly put other strikers in there who get about maybe 3 or 4 goals, and you're still sort of bottom...
Yeah, to put it into context, the players below him: Haaland 12 points, Mohamed Salah 11 points, Visser 8 points, and Mbeumo 8 points. Yeah. So the Brentford duo have got 16 points between them. Yeah. And do you know what? We'll move on to it. We'll move on to Brentford. So Brentford, after their win over Newcastle, have now won more home points than any other side in the Premier League this season with 22. 22 points after these amount of games is their most, obviously, in their league history. And it's their first win against Newcastle in Premier League history, which is crazy in itself. But on the flip side of that, they are 19th in the away table.
I think they're parallel. So they're better than Liverpool at Anfield, and they're about as bad as Southampton in their away form this season.
And I think, as we just mentioned there before, Visser and Mbeumo have won Brentford 16 points. Yeah. And I don't know what the phrase is called, but they've left Ivan Toney behind and got better. And it just feels like you can do no wrong.
The
Ewing theory. Yeah. And it's you see these videos of Thomas Frank on social media galvanising the players after the game. Just top coach, top team. I just I don't understand the away form.
I might really have to do a deep dive. Yeah.
Do you know the home thing? It's like you would understand it if they were like a Forest, massive following, big stadium, but it's not. They just feel at home. They kind of thing. They're like,
maybe they get travel sick.
So they've got
a bit shy away.
So they've got a -9 goal difference with 1 point away from home. Southampton are the only team worse than that. But to give you an idea, Southampton have got a -11 with 1 point. Brentford have got a -9 with 1 point. So they're virtually the same away from home.
It's Liverpool and Southampton if you're going home and away.
But Brentford are clear at the top, 8 games played, plus 12 goal difference, 22 points. Liverpool and Arsenal are below them with a game in hand, but even if they both win the game in hand, they still don't eclipse Brentford's form at home. So we're going to move on into the Arsenal game, which is a very interesting 1-1 draw.
I mean, Arsenal in general, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, very tetchy.
We waxed lyrical about them in the tactics piece just gone, about probably a week ago now. And we focused in on that right-hand side, the rotations between that side. And it was very sort of Timber's involvement was very important too.
Huge.
Those movements where he tacked inside, but he also allowed Saka to move inside, Odegaard to pick the ball deeper. And then often, one of Jorginho or Havertz did move to that flank, become a +1. And it was very right-sided heavy. The left side is showing problems in terms of, 1, a chemistry between the players, and then 2, just generally finding solutions for that. I think a lot of people are blaming Martinelli, but I think it's probably harsh to blame Martinelli alone.
For this one,
obviously when Calafiori does come in, that side looks quite strong. You have Declan Rice often playing on that side, and I don't think he's as inclined to be a scorer or contribute to the attack like Odegaard does. And in the game that we just saw, Timber played on that left side. I assume, obviously, you've got the injuries. Zinchenko probably not preferred on that side. But I do think by moving Timber onto that side, you got 3 right-footed players, so you lack angles in terms of recreation.
I have got a stat here. Arsenal haven't kept a clean sheet in any of their last 6 Premier League away games. Their joint longest run without one during Mikel Arteta's time, which is quite scary because they've gone from being this... I'm not going to say they aren't defensively solid still, because Fulham had virtually, I think they had 3 touches in Arsenal's box throughout the entire game, and the finish from Jimenez is ridiculous out of this world.
I said I love these finishes where it's like a right side, right foot.
He's not even
left side, left foot.
He's so high on the box. Like I don't know how he's got it in. And just them finishes where they take it from. Rashford used to do it all the time.
Yeah, same side into the far post.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't know how they squeeze it angle-wise. Yeah, so. But also, Arsenal have now scored 20 goals from set pieces, excluding penalties, in the Premier League in 2024. It's their joint most in a calendar year in the competition. They also scored 20 in 2009. So obviously everyone's saying, the old Arsenal would be I'd be terrified of this team. But they're tied with 2009, which is the Wenger team. So,
what do you make of that? As in, because I think it would be foolish to say that Arsenal are fine in open play chance creation.
No, I don't think they are.
What I've said, and I said this a couple of years ago actually, but I said the way that Arsenal as a team and their game model has trended is in reducing variance. My point is essentially that by having really strong players who win duels across the pitch, and by having a team that holds the ball for 70% of the game, in theory, you're going to have 1 or 2 breaks where you score. And especially if you maximise the fine margins in terms of set pieces, you don't need to be brilliant in terms of unpicking a defence, because by having so much of the ball, by giving virtually nothing up in your own box, and by having really strong set pieces and shots from around the area, you're going to, ideally in theory, force the issue at least once in 90 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's focused on not losing, rather than being very good at breaking down a team. Because you lose some of that balance. For example, Manchester City, let's say we've got a lot of players who are good at picking, the opposition's defence apart from number 10 areas. When you do play some of those players, perhaps you're more susceptible to giving big chances away. So it's a system that's focused on reducing variance, reducing chance, but we're probably seeing the negative parts of that now when some of your attacking chances don't fall your way, basically, don't you think?
I think they're probably the most risk-averse I've seen a title challenger in the past few years in the Premier League. I think I don't really have a complaint about it, because I understand that I think this is one of the highest quality average Premier Leagues we've ever seen. I think the average Premier League team, I was looking the other day and I was looking at my team and I was going, I'm watching Fulham and Bournemouth and Brentford and Brighton. And we're just better than us. Yeah. They're just better than us. And I know it's outcome bias and recency bias in terms of how bad we are, but we've been this bad for about a year.
Yeah.
So I think just the standard. So I understand why he's being more risk averse and why he's, as you said,
in theory, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
No, it makes sense, and I think at the moment,
over a 38-game season, especially.
Yeah, I think at the moment, Arsenal have got some absolutely unbelievable players. So they've got Saliba, they've got Ødegaard, they've got Saka. I would even class Declan Rice as a very special player. I think, and we've said this so many times, I think Arsenal are just missing that firepower attacker.
Yeah.
Not Saka is absolutely brilliant, right? Everyone knows this, but he cannot keep doing this. There has to be another player in the forward line who can just create something out of nothing.
I thought when it was Zinchenko, Xhaka, Martinelli, even though individually there's not sort of that wow player,
a lot.
Zinchenko was really good at sort of arriving in those areas and also build up. His technical security was top in those areas. Great at finding players in those small spaces. Xhaka could always pop in with the goal and also have the legs to drop back in.
Yeah.
And I really liked him higher up. It was almost like that Gundogan kind of role. And then you had Martinelli, who I feel like he had a bit more sort of brightness and spark to his game in terms of crashing the box.
Yeah.
So I don't think. So I do agree. You need some more just star quality. That left 8 position, I know Declan Rice is good in there, and he's a brilliant footballer, but I think you need a player who can create something, and I'm not saying get rid of the dueling nature of that player, but have a player who can create something, and and especially sort of move out to that left flank and bring Martinelli inside a little bit, because I think, I thought Shaq had done that quite well.
Yeah. I will say this, I don't like Declan Rice as in it. I think it's not borderline useless. I think it's massively, massively disrespectful to what he's actually good at.
Yeah.
I think I know why they do it. Like, I know, so to have like a Jorginho at the base is a lot better in terms of circulating the ball and receiving the ball back to goal and knowing what to do in them situations. And he's pushing Declan Rice on, yes, because he can win duels high. Theoretically, you think he could crash the box well.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you also think he could
shot from the edge of the box as well.
All of that. But I think you just lose so much of the team's dynamics when you're doing all this. I think if you had even a Marino, like I know he's just come in, but it's like, even if you just had someone like that who can get a goal consistently, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about Declan Rice.
I know it doesn't make sense, obviously now he's gone anyway, but like sort of like a peak Smith Rowe, for example.
Do you know what I mean?
Like
someone who can offer just a little bit of different dynamism, different goal-getting quality.
I think the ability to rotate to the flanks is important, because you've got Odegaard who can do it on this side, Timber as well. When Calafiori's in there, and obviously he's been injured, so that's another sort of negative to that side's configuration. But you do have that ability for someone to attack those half spaces, but also rotate out to the flank, and it's harder for teams to kind of match up on that. But a left-footed player, they need some left.
I think
sided angles.
The left eight is going to be such a hard player to identify moving forward for Arsenal, because in theory, for what we've seen a Mikel Arteta team use there, it's like they need to be strong, fast,
like a second pivot player who can also
score goals consistently or create goals consistently, and that is like
Gundogan, Curtis Jones.
It's such a hard profile to find though. And even if you wanted to say how they're doing right now, they'd have to be like above 6'2".
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you find that anywhere in Europe? And he's like, he puts Kai Havertz there, but he looks absolutely toothless in that position.
Yeah. Kai Havertz looks better in the 9, but you lose some of that sort of box dominance, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's worrying. I don't think it's worrying for Arsenal, but I just think they are.
I think long run they'll be fine.
Yeah,
because even if you're drawing, they're not losing games. I said that they're the hardest team to beat in the league. That's what I've said. But they're drawing games. They're drawing games. In like, I think Chelsea are losing more than them. Liverpool are losing more than them, but obviously they're winning more because they play in a more risky fashion. And perhaps that risk over a longer period of time will cause those teams to fall off a little bit, and Arsenal can be in with a chance. But I think, I think there's just like a psychological aspect. You don't want it to become a point where it's like you're drawing too much and you're getting hard on yourself, and you're not
for sure. Right, we're going to move on to the last game, and we're only going to touch on this briefly sorry, mate.
Painful.
Crystal Palace 2, Manchester City 2.
I'll take it a draw.
From the stats I've got in front of me, they had the same shots as you.
Yeah,
which is pretty scary.
I can't doubt the.
No, you can't doubt the data.
Can't doubt the data.
But it's 1.34 expected goals to 1.45, despite you having 69% of the ball.
Yeah.
You had the same shots. Just really worrying for you, isn't it?
I think expectations for the season have to be a little bit different.
So much more reserved.
Yeah, like Guardiola's mentioned it himself. He goes, I think the quote was, "This is a season to suffer," something like that. And I thought the red card was harsh. I thought
the red card was really harsh.
Yeah, in fact, I think Rico probably got kicked out a bit.
I know. I think Rico was like, he didn't kick up anywhere near as much of a fuss as I would have.
Yeah,
like, I think it's crazy how you can't VAR second yellows that are like send someone off.
Yeah, I know.
I don't understand. I know why, because you can't VAR a yellow. You can't VAR a yellow, all that. But like for that one, it's so obviously not a second yellow card.
The thing is, like our game was still flawed, like irrespective of that.
Yeah, of course.
I think we're certainly improving since the bad run of form, but a lot of our team decisions.
Sorry, since the bad run of form.
I mean, it's
still in it.
Literally the whole season.
The 1 week.
We got a draw. I mean, our fortunes are turning.
Sorry, carry on.
So like I think in theory we've got ideas in terms of how we can play.
Yeah.
But they're all dependent on personnel, and Doku, Grealish, both of them didn't play. Even though they were really impressive. Grealish in central midfield, Doku on the wing midweek. But they're just coming back from injury. I think Pep said, the players who came back, played the game, went straight to the massage table, been recovering, and I'm not going to put them back in straight away the week after. So, look, if Grealish did play in there, if Doku played on that flank, I think it would be a lot better. Nunes, for his good quality on the flank when he first come into the team this season, slows things down a little bit, especially against Palace.
Good ball for the cross.
Good cross for the ball.
Good cross for the goal. Sorry.
I think his final ball is only him decent. And De Bruyne kind of have that in their locker this season for City. But it's very personnel based. You've got Akanji who isn't fit. Ake, who was brilliant, again not fully fit. Who else is out? Rodri's out. Kovacic is out. So Gundogan's playing every game. Grealish not fully fit. Doku not fully fit. Foden out as well. So injuries are basically taking the toll, I think. And perhaps, in retrospect, we should have rebuilt a bit more in the summer. But you can't predict these things. Every injury increases the amount of minutes another player has to play. And then it's a domino effect, isn't it? So.
Got a stat here that says in the Premier League since September 22nd, you are second for big chances conceded. But the three teams around you are Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich. Which
so poor. That's so poor.
You've conceded 37 in that time. Ipswich have conceded 3 less than you.
Okay.
So that's a start.
Yeah.
You're not that bad, but you've joined with Leicester and Southampton have got 6 more than you.
Right.
So I think it's everything that we've just said is just kind of compiled into one. I think poorish squad building in the summer, whether or not that's because of financial reasons, we don't know, like PSR, stuff like that. Obviously, the squad got a little bit older in the summer, wasn't freshened up enough. The injuries have caused a massive domino effect throughout the entire team. I think Pep is trying to stay with the same shape and structures and principles so the team don't lose the rhythm of what they're trying to do. But he's also being assertively and aggressive in his approach, game on game. And I think it's not worrying because I think even you've got to the point now where it's like you're not expecting much. It's like this is how the past 4 seasons have been for me. So you get 10 games and you're like, go again next year, lads. So believe me, I know how you feel. But
I just want to see an interesting solution because Guardiola's always come up with a nice solution. And he's had more players at his disposal than he's had this season, obviously. When Grealish came in, I was really impressed to see him in that midfield and him perform really nicely in that midfield. When Foden's back in the team, there's certainly solutions. I think Foden has good physicality, good legs. I think Grealish does the same thing. Nunes on that flank's an option. I think Kyle Walker's at a point where he's surplus to what we need. And he's playing because there's injuries.
It's just getting worse every week, though. It's really sad, isn't it? He's just playing himself further deeper into the bad form, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I think he's playing the best of his ability, and the only position he can play is in that sort of right of a 3. But that's such a dangerous position to be in if there's not that cover in midfield, and he's losing his legs himself, as we've seen over the last few weeks. So, look, it's tough in general. I think with everyone fit, there's solutions to put
but right now it just looks
a winning
so
run
bad,
up. But right now I think
every solution that we've come up with, I always in the back of my mind I go, but that's why he's not doing it, and that's completely fine.
Yeah. Do you
know what I mean?
The only thing I'm thinking now, which is it sounds foolish, but can you put Nunes in at right back if Kyle Walker's not playing
and get
him
to go inside.
Or just have him overlap. Completely. And then
because I think even I mentioned to you the Akanji thing about going inside, and he tried it against Liverpool, but then I watched the Liverpool game and was like, nah.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Liverpool were really
like,
impressive at pressing. And maybe you can get away with it against another team, but the game before the Palace one, Akanji playing right back looked good. Ake and Diaz in centre back looked good. Guardiola as the left back. I think that as a back 4 is probably the best we got.
You got at the moment.
I mean, we don't even have it at the moment, but in theory, exactly. Or John Stones, but his injury form's again hit and miss. So I don't think there's much we can do besides wait for the players to come back, except maybe try Nunes on that flank.
Yeah, just to get back it.
Yeah, maybe try Foden as one of the second midfielders rather than in the forward 4. But
at least you've got an easy game next week.
Oh, yeah.
The only other team who's worse than you at the moment.
I always look at our table and I think we've played so badly.
And you're just not dropping because no one else is picking up points.
Like, why are we still there? And then I'm thinking, like, God, how bad must United be to beat?
Do you know when Spurs are going to Bournemouth, right? Yeah. They were still in bad form. Obviously, they're in very bad form now. Yeah. But if they would have won the game against Bournemouth, I think they were like 4th or 5th. And I was like, how?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
And even if you look at us now and you look at the table, you go, we're not out of this yet. We've lost so many games. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I mean. Everyone's just beating everyone. And the Premier League's at a standard where it's like...
Just a quick, but I think, like, so I saw I can't remember who it was now, but someone mentioned almost every team is trying to build out from the back super deep. Everyone's trying to go man for man, high pressure. Everyone's trying to use their individual superiority to get the best of those 1v1 duels. They're all playing on these set pieces. It's almost in the same way that how the Bundesliga transformed while Guardiola was here.
The same.
It's kind of in the same way where, like, how the Bundesliga in its tactics generally were implemented. That's how the Premier League's kind of gone. And I think the only thing that differentiates those, when the game models are so similar, only 2 things differentiate, or 3 things if I say. 1, injuries. 2, fine margins, so throw-in routines or set pieces.
Yeah.
And 3, player quality.
I knew you were going to say the player quality one.
Because
it's just like,
aside from those 3 things, if everyone's playing in a similar style, there's no difference.
But it's like, even when we went away to Ipswich, Ruben Amorim's first game, and it's like, I've watched Ipswich like a couple of times this season. Even they're trying to do like the good things, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the things that everyone tries to get down. It's like, we're going to go 3-2-5. We're going to go man for man. We're going to press high.
It's just individual.
Everyone's got the same.
Probably the only other thing I mentioned is in that fine margins thing, I would include like just getting the better of individual players' tendencies. So like if Cucurella jumps and you're playing Chelsea, have someone running behind there, or if
like the minimal in-game stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like the little just going up to a player and going, you do that, you do this.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I think you spot on, honestly, because when Ruben Amorim come in, I mentioned this, is like we talk about suboptimal structures in and out of possession and stuff like that, weird pressing shapes and all that, but in some of the games, we've already seen Ruben Amorim try to go to more of a 4-4-2 just by having players' reference points a little bit all over the place just to make a 4-4-2. And it's like, even though we're playing 3-4-3 on paper and everyone makes it a 3 back, we're 3-2-5 in attack. Yeah. We're 4-4-2 out of possession, which is literally every single other club in the Premier League right now.
Yeah,
and we're going man for man.
Yeah.
So everyone's doing the same thing, and this is why, if you've got a coach who can... Well, I think every Premier League coach, even Championship, League 1, League 2, can coach good structures in and out of possession.
Yeah,
it's just what you're saying there, which is about the variances.
Yeah,
that's all.
And putting your, in mentioning player quality, I'd say like platforming that player quality. Yeah. So, for example, if I've got De Bruyne, I don't want to put him in the double pivot like he'd done for Belgium.
Yeah, profiling.
Like I'll put him in the right half space, or I'll get him overlapping, or I'll get him playing with the left-footed winger.
That's why Maresca's been so good, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Because he's come in and he knows exactly where every player's going to go.
Got the player quality, no injuries, individual tweaks, and then also profiled everyone well.
Yeah. So, and I think even that takes like 10 games until managers lock it down. Do you know what I mean? Like Ruben Amorim's like still chopping, changing in his shape, but you know eventually he's going to fall on something and he's going to have a profile for each position and they don't budge. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think with United they're lacking some of that.
The individual quality. No, it's a really good point. I think Bundesliga-fied is the Premier League.
Yeah, and not in the way where I know City won the league for 4 years in a row kind of thing, but I think I'm talking about it more from like a global trend in the tactics kind of thing.
Well, it's even in the pyramid.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's even in the pyramid. Like Championship teams are doing the exact same thing. So
I would say innovation comes from like second division, third division, fourth division, like Bundesliga 2, Serie B, Serie C. I don't know too much about football in terms of sort of League 1, League 2. Yeah. So I don't know if that's happening in those divisions. But
well, everyone in League 1, League 2, not everyone, but like most of the teams who have gone up from League 2 and League 1, when I was there, always played a free. Like so either a 3 or a 5. Yeah. So like on paper, because I've always spoken about this, if you play a 3 or a 5, it is so much easier to go to your in possession, out possession shape. Because your running really is only down to your wing backs. Yeah. So if you've got young, energetic wing backs who can go last line and then transition back to a 3 and a 5, you can theoretically set up in a 3-5-2 and then a 2-3-5 so easily.
It takes about a couple games.
A couple games for your fullbacks to run up and down. And
then the defensive shapes are not as difficult to break down, I assume.
Yeah.
The problem with obviously with the 5-2-3 shape is your wing backs are the ones who are supporting the counter attacks.
Yeah.
So then you lose a bit of that. If your midfielders are, they get there quicker, but your wingers find it. Your wing backs find it harder to get there.
And the thing is as well is because like the physical flooring of them leagues are lower.
Yeah.
It's like when your players do go to when they do transition, it's like there are moments of just complete rest in the games.
Yeah.
So you can account for, if I make a 50-yard sprint, that player's going to be unaccessible for a minute. But everyone on the pitch is at the same level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's just various. But I think, it's getting to a point where everyone's doing the same thing, and it is just the minimalistic tweaks in games from managers. And that is why when Ruben Amorim's come in and I looked at the structures and stuff, I was like, how is he as a person? Like, I want to see his personality. How likeable is he? How well does he communicate? And I feel like when you look at like throughout English football, Company went from English to German league, and he looks to have done the same. So right, beautiful chat. Thank you very much.
Yes, boss.
Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you did please do like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back next week for more Premier League reviews. Thank you very much.